Dubai in shock. Sheikh Hamdan finally speaks about his ex-wife. For years, Dubai had only whispered about it, the love story that once lit up the royal palace, and the silence that followed. No one dared to ask Sheikh Hamdan, Crown Prince of Dubai, about his mysterious ex-wife, until now. Last night, during a quiet royal gathering, the poet prince finally broke his silence. His words were soft, almost poetic, carrying the kind of pain that only love could create. Some stories, he said, are not meant to end. They are only meant to pause in time. Those who were there said his eyes carried a sadness deeper than the desert night. His ex-wife, the woman who once walked beside him through every royal event, every private desert ride, had been gone for years. Yet her memory lingered like perfume in an empty hall. The world knew her as graceful, intelligent, and quietly independent, not the usual royal bride, but a woman who matched the prince's poetic soul. Some say she came from a background far from royalty. Others claim she was a scholar who captured his heart with her words, not her wealth. When their marriage ended, no official reason was given. The palace remained silent. The people speculated. But Sheikh Hamdan kept writing, poems filled with longing, mystery, and devotion. Many believed those verses were written for her, and now, for the first time, he spoke about her directly. She was not a mistake, he said softly. She was a lesson, a mirror that showed me what love looks like when it's pure and brave. The room fell silent. Even his closest friends could not meet his gaze. His words weren't angry. They were tender, almost forgiving. He spoke like a man who had made peace with his past, but not forgotten it. She taught me to see beyond titles, he continued, to feel with the heart, not through the crown. Love doesn't ask for permission, and sometimes it doesn't last forever, but it always changes who you are. Those words spread across Dubai by morning. Social media erupted. Some called it his most emotional confession yet. Others wondered if he still loved her. A few royal watchers claimed he was preparing to write a new collection of poetry inspired by that chapter of his life, the chapter he had never dared to name. In a rare personal note shared online, he later wrote, "Some people never leave you. You may stop holding their hand, but you never stop hearing their voice in the wind." That one line alone broke millions of hearts. The internet filled with speculation. Was the sheikh reaching out to her? Was this message for the woman who once held the prince's heart? Insiders close to the royal family say that she now lives a quiet life away from Dubai, and no titles, no cameras, only peace. But those who know, Sheikh Hamdan, say he still keeps a photograph of her among his books, hidden between pages of his old poetry. No one knows if they still speak, but everyone knows love like that never really ends. And as Dubai woke up to the night after Sheikh Hamdan's emotional words, Dubai buzzed with curiosity. Every cafe, every social feed, every royal follower whispered the same question. Why did their love end? And finally, through a private interview shared with close friends, the truth began to unfold. Not the scandal people expected, but a story of sacrifice, silence, and destiny. "She was my peace," Sheikh Hamdan began, "but peace is not always easy to protect." He spoke of how their love had started in the quiet corners of the desert, long before the world noticed. She was not part of the royal world. She came from a simple family, someone who valued freedom and truth more than fame or gold. When they met, he wasn't the crown prince in her eyes. He was just Hamdan, a poet, a man who loved horses and silence. Their connection was instant, a meeting of souls, not status. But as their love grew, so did the pressure. The world wanted her to change, to become something she wasn't. And though she tried, she could not bury her simplicity under the weight of crowns. She never wanted to be a queen, he said softly. She only wanted to be mine. The more attention their relationship received, the more fragile it became. Every word she spoke was analyzed, every gesture turned into gossip. What began as love turned into a test neither of them was prepared for. He described the nights when she cried, tired of being watched. The days when he had to choose between protecting her privacy and fulfilling his royal duties. I was torn, he admitted. I loved her, but I also belonged to a world that demanded perfection. When their marriage began to crumble, they didn't fight in anger. They fought in silence, a silence filled with respect, sorrow, and understanding. She once told me, he revealed, you don't lose me if you let me go. You lose me if you make me stay when I can't breathe. Those words, he said, stayed with him like a poem carved into his soul. He didn't stop her. He didn't beg her to stay. He loved her enough to let her find her peace, even if that peace meant life without him. And so one early morning, she left Dubai. No drama, no royal statement, no farewell ceremony. Just a quiet departure, and a note that read, You gave me love beyond measure. Now I must give you freedom beyond reason. Years have passed since that day. But the Sheikh admits the emptiness never truly faded. People think being royal means being powerful, he said. But love reminds you that even a prince can be helpless. He paused for a long time, then smiled faintly. She's still the only person who ever made me forget I was a crown prince. The interviewer asked if he would ever consider finding her again. His eyes turned thoughtful. Love doesn't always need to return, he said. Sometimes its purpose is to teach you how to live with grace after losing something you can't replace. That night the world saw not a ruler, not a poet, but a man stripped of his armor, a man who loved once. Weeks passed since Sheikh Hamdan's rare confession, yet Dubai was still captivated. His words had reopened an old chapter, one that many thought was closed forever. But fate, it seemed, wasn't done writing their story. It began quietly, with a letter. One evening after sunset, a sealed envelope arrived at the royal stables. It carried no title, no symbol of rank, only a name written in graceful handwriting, to Hamdan, not His Highness. Not Crown Prince, just Hamdan. When he saw it, his breath caught. Only one person in the world ever called him that way. He opened it slowly, his hands trembling slightly. The faint scent of jasmine rising from the paper, the same perfume she once wore. Inside was a single page. The handwriting was unmistakable. I heard your words. The world thinks we ended. But love like ours doesn't end. It rests in silence. I am not coming back to the palace, for my peace lives elsewhere now. But I wanted you to know. I never stopped praying for your light. There was no signature. None was needed. For a long time, Sheikh Hamdan sat in silence, the desert wind moving softly through the open balcony. The city lights shimmered below, but his eyes were fixed on the letter, as if the past had come back to touch him one last time. Later, in a private circle of friends, he spoke about it for the first time. I didn't expect her to write, he admitted, but she always knew when I needed words, not presence. He didn't reveal where she lived or how she'd sent it. All he said was, "Some souls are meant to meet once and stay connected beyond distance. She is one of them." That night, he rode his horse deep into the desert, the same desert where they had first met. The moon was full, the sand cool, the air still. Those who saw him said he looked like a man both haunted and healed. At the edge of the dunes, he whispered to the wind, "If love is a prayer, may mine reach her wherever she is." Days later, the Sheikh posted a new poem online, short but filled with emotion. The letter came without promise, but it brought peace. "You are still the pause between my yesterday and forever." It went viral within hours. People across the world called it his final farewell, but those close to him knew better. It wasn't farewell. It was acceptance. He continued his duties as crown prince, yet something in him had softened. His poems became gentler, his tone humbler, his eyes warmer. It was as if the letter had returned a missing part of him, the peace he once gave away. Months later, at a poetry event in Dubai, he ended his recitation with these words, "To the one who taught me love, may the stars guide your dreams, as they once guided mine. You are not gone. You are written in every word I will ever write." The audience rose to their feet, some with tears, others with awe. It was clear to everyone, this was not a story of heartbreak anymore. It was a story of eternal respect, of two souls who loved deeply, lost quietly, and lived. For years, the world had only heard his voice, the prince who spoke in poems and silences. But then one morning, something extraordinary happened. The woman who once captured Sheikh Hamdan's heart, his ex-wife, finally spoke. It began with an interview in a quiet coastal town far from Dubai's golden towers. The journalist described her as calm, radiant, and impossibly serene. She no longer wore royal jewels or designer gowns. Her simplicity glowed brighter than any crown. When asked why she had chosen to speak after so many years, she smiled gently. "Because truth doesn't belong to one heart," she said. "It belongs to both who shared it." Her voice was soft but steady, a voice that carried memories, not bitterness. "I was never meant to be a queen," she began. "I was meant to love a man who happened to be a prince." She spoke of their first meeting, how she had stumbled into a poetry reading without knowing who he was. He looked like anyone else that evening, except his words carried the weight of 1,000 suns. "I didn't see the prince. I saw the poet." Their love, she said, was pure, but it existed between two worlds that rarely meet, love and duty. He belonged to everyone. I belonged only to him. That difference became the space between us. When their relationship began to feel suffocated by expectations, she knew she had to walk away. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving him," she confessed. "I left because love was turning into something neither of us could breathe in anymore." Tears shimmered in her eyes, but she didn't hide them. "He gave me the kind of love that teaches you how to be strong even when you're broken." She revealed that she had watched his speech, the one where he spoke about her. "When I heard him say I was not a mistake but a lesson, I cried. Because I learned the same lesson. Too, love isn't measured by how long it lasts, but by how deeply it changes you." The journalist asked if she still thought of him. She smiled faintly. "Every time I pray, I ask for his peace before mine. That is love, not possession, but prayer." She confirmed that the letter he received was indeed from her. I didn't expect him to reply, she said. Some messages are not written for answers. They are written to set both hearts free. When asked if she had moved on, she paused for a long moment. Moved on? She repeated softly. I've moved forward, yes, but love like that doesn't move away. It stays, quietly, like perfume on old pages. Her final words touched millions across the world. If you ever love someone the way I loved him, she said, don't be sad if you lose them. Just thank destiny that you met them in this lifetime. That night, Sheikh Hamdan was informed of her interview. He read every word silently, then placed the article beside the letter she had written him. Later, he posted a simple message online. The moon doesn't speak, yet the ocean still answers. Some souls are bound in silence, but their hearts still. Years had passed since the letter, since the public confessions, since their hearts had spoken across distance and silence. Dubai had moved on, bustling with lights, power, and luxury. But Sheikh Hamdan still carried a quiet corner of his heart reserved for her. It was during a charity event in the desert, one of those nights when the stars seemed brighter than the city itself, that fate intervened. She appeared, not as a royal guest, not as a figure of gossip, but simply as the woman who had once walked beside him. Time had changed her, but not the essence that had captivated him years ago. Her eyes were still calm, radiant, and full of the same understanding he remembered. There was no awkwardness, only recognition, like two notes from the same song finally meeting again. Hamdan, she said softly. The single word carried decades of memories. He stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with emotion. It's been a long time. Yes, she replied, a faint smile touching her lips. Too long? They spoke quietly, away from the cameras and the crowd. The world around them vanished. There were no crowns, no titles, no gossip. Only the two of them and the desert. Wind that had once witnessed the start of their love. I never forgot, Sheikh Hamdan confessed. Every poem I wrote, every word I shared, carried a piece of you. She nodded. I know. I felt it too. Your words reached me when I couldn't reach you. For a while, they walked side by side in silence. The memories of the past returned. Their first meetings, stolen conversations, quiet rides in the desert. But there was no bitterness, no regret. Only a shared understanding that life had taken them on separate paths. Yet their hearts had remained connected. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if things were different? She asked. Every day, he admitted. But I also know we loved the way we were meant to, deeply, honestly, and without pretense. That love doesn't need a different ending to be real. She smiled, and for the first time in years, he felt the same warmth he had felt in her presence all those years ago. I don't regret it, she said, because loving you taught me everything about strength, patience, and letting go. They found themselves laughing softly at old memories, the small arguments that felt monumental at the time, the quiet moments that had become legendary in their own hearts. They weren't reconnecting as lovers, not yet, but as two souls who had grown and learned, and who now met in a place of peace and respect. Before they parted that night, she handed him a small, worn notebook, one he didn't recognize immediately. Inside were poems she had written over the years, inspired by their love, their separation, and their memories. "Your poems reached me," she said. "These are mine for you." Hamdan took it carefully. "Overwhelmed, I will treasure them," he whispered. As they walked away in different directions under the moonlit desert, Sheikh Hamdan realized something.